In this SPSS tutorial, we're going to look at how to calculate a chi-square. If you remember, a chi-square is really the ability for us to look at the association between two variables. So let's go ahead and get started. If you go up to your Analyze box on the toolbar, click on that. We're going to go to Descriptive Statistics. When we go over to Descriptive Statistics, if you remember, this is where we look at our frequencies and our descriptives. If you go down to Crosstabs, if you remember in the lecture, the crosstab is really the way in which we create the Punnett square, or the squares and cells so that we can calculate a chi-square. If you look at the way we can pull in the variables, we want to look at what's going to be in the column and what's going to be in the column and what's going to be in the rows. This is going to matter in terms of what we calculate in terms of our statistics. There's really no rhyme or reason. Honestly, I tend to put my shorter variables in the columns just so that you go across and then go down. Doesn't really matter too much. Let's look at the sex of the respondent on their position or their role in the organization. Okay, so what we're looking at is the crosstab between the sex of the respondent and their current position in their organization or their role. Okay, so we pulled over our two variables. Now what we need to do is be able to calculate our statistic. So if you go over to your buttons over here on the right side, click on Statistics. You'll see that it gives you some options. You could do your correlations, which we'll talk about later. But for right now, let's just calculate our chi-square. Okay? Now, go ahead down and hit Continue. The other thing that you're going to want to do is to capture the information about the row and column percentages. If you click on your cells, this is where it's going to give you the difference between your observed and your expected, if you wanted to do that for hand calculations. More importantly, and something that it's just really good practice to do, is to calculate your row, column, and total percentages. So your observed is going to be the count. That should automatically be clicked. Your row, your column, and your total percentage is going to give you some more descriptive power when you calculate your statistic. Okay, so go ahead and click Continue there. And we should be all set. Go ahead and click OK. You'll see the computer process. And again, our outputs is rather simple. We have our case processing summary, which just gives you per what the number of cases were that you actually looked at. So we had 28 respondents, 2 were missing. So that's our situation. And see, this is why I sort of do your thinking about your dependent, your independent variables. If you go too wide across the top, you're scrolling quite a bit. It's easier sort of to scroll down. So you'll see that you have your row percentage. Here's your column. Again, one of the things that we wanted to look for is to make sure that we have 5 cases per cell, which we don't in this case. So we're not really going to be able to look at the chi-square test and see it as particularly reliable, mainly because we have some small sample sizes here. One way we could account for that is if we were to go back and recode the variables, which you'll learn about in some of your research classes. But for right now, let's just acknowledge the fact that we have some small sample sizes in our cells and look at what the chi-square test tells us. So you scroll down, and here's your chi-square test. Now, what we're looking for is your Pearson chi-square value. Here's your actual statistic. And notice it gives you this little superscript here, which if you go down there, it tells you that 4 cells have less than expected values of 5. So the computer will actually alert you when you have some small sample sizes in your cells. So we have 2 degrees of freedom, and our significance for this chi-square value is 0.252, which is greater than 0.05. So what we would do is say that it's not, we would conclude that it is not significant, and therefore we would fail to reject our null hypothesis, meaning that we don't really see an association between these 2 variables of gender and current position in your organization. If you're interested in how to go about understanding your column and row percentages, I recommend going back to the lecture and going to the section where we talked about how to read this kind of output.